this where technology can serve a useful purpose is, and I have, but this is by Alex Newman, who is writing some articles and researching this. I don't know if he's been on the War Room, but I've heard his name before. He says, under the New World Order envisioned by the proponents of the United Nations Great Reset, the Klaus Schwab Great Reset, the American agreement to this thing, by the way, is that humans will be merged with machines and technology. Literally, perhaps most incredibly, the deep state globalists behind the efforts are coming out of the closet these days. They're openly and literally, Mercedes, proclaiming their intention to abolish private ownership of property. And you're going to own nothing and be happy, is their promise.
That, and by 2030, zero emissions. That's the other thing. They're really going heavy into cars and zero emissions.
Yeah, well, they're going to brains because they're going to fuse microchips into people's brains that will be able to read and manipulate individual thoughts, to read and manipulate, so you can monitor if you're getting... Are you getting upset about our global idea? Are you getting upset by our transgender inclusivity? Sure. I sense some levels of stress there.
Yeah.
Should we be monitoring where you're going and who you're talking to? Mm-hmm. See how this is where, like Elon Musk says, that this AI, artificial intelligence, this guy's like a borderline genius. He might be a genius in certain ways. And he says the greatest threat is that the thinking machines, the machines that we're creating that are learning how to think, are actually doubling their brain power like every 90 days, which means at a certain point, they're thinking so much better than humans are thinking that they can actually start to coordinate with each other. It's almost like that whole Terminator theme.
Oh, sure.
About the computers, actually thinking and taking out human beings is their biggest threat.
Yeah.
But he says it's nothing to be joking about because science is treating these things like they control them. Mm-hmm. They say, but you have no idea. But what happens if you have let's say you have a genius who is able to develop a microchip that goes into you in your brain or your head or something, and it can monitor and send back this data so that when you're upset or when you're excited or whenever you're not emotionally thinking the way that you're supposed to, you suddenly have, you pop up on the radar and you're isolated. Well, this is like mind reading. Last year, the schemes peddled under the Great Reset banner would have been dismissed as crazy conspiracy theories. But today, top globalists such as World Economic Forum boss Klaus Schwab, UN chief Antonio Guterres, the International Monetary Fund leader Kristalina Georgieva, and others are trumpeting this agenda and saying this is the cat's pajamas. This is where we got to go. Even Justin Trudeau, pajama boy up there in Canada, is saying this is what we want for the future of Canada. So the reports coming out that they want everything to change as part of, but they're intruding into the private space of our minds and thoughts because in their philosophy, they're supposed to be controlling what happens, and you should be trusting them that they know better than you what should be thought and what should be done.
Well, I have to read that because I haven't read the article that you've read. But, I mean, so hear me out, okay? Because I'm 20, 30 years younger than you, something like that. So for me, technology and its advancements has a lot of benefits. And so there's certain things like you talked about, like a pacemaker, cochlear implants. There are certain elements that are really beneficial, other like limbs, people who've lost limbs and those being connected. I could see a chip, on the redemption side of it, people who struggle with depression and, not making enough dopamine and things like that. Like if that chip was able to monitor things like that and then self-release medication that keeps a person balanced, is it from that point of view? Or are you saying like it's legitimately going to be able to like police your thought life?
Well, this is the point. It's exactly what you just heard, ladies and gentlemen, which explains my anxiety. Because
maybe you need a chip.
We live with I need a chip. Yeah, have another chip. Which is that we live in the midst of a generation that gets into the slippery slope so easily of compromising the distinction between autonomy and technology, that what serves a purpose of medically aiding you is one step removed from serving the purpose of medically monitoring you, which is one step away from serving the purpose of medically monitoring your vaccination history, going in and out of buildings, which can be expanded to being monitoring emotions for anger or rage, which will go into terrorism will be averted because we control currency through the chip, and we can also regulate those people that have high levels of anxiety and anger. They don't have to be criminalized. We can intercept them before they get to that place.
Hmm.
And suddenly see the graduation
Yeah, but
into the invasion of your own autonomy as a human
correct.
being.
But what then is the Christian's response? What then is the good, like, forget Christian even, just say the conservatives' response. So like if war is waged through economies and technology and information, what then are you suggesting we do? Not more move towards it? Are you saying, oh, like all crypto is bad, all medical advancements, all technology stuff? Because if we don't move towards that space, we don't encourage our people to move towards that space, then you do end up with things like that and the train off the tracks and just, complete chaos. If we don't have godly people there, we don't have godly people there involved in those areas.
So what it really comes down to is, and this is the fundamental of everything that we teach, is that the sovereignty of the individual, this is what the battle of Western civilization is about. Does a nation have the right to be independent, to have self-determination for its own destiny? In the New World Order, you will have to surrender your sovereignty as a nation to the global system.
Mm-hmm.
The beast will be a global system. And to participate in it, you have to conform to it. So it creates an empire rather than a nation state. A nation state is God's invention. It's kind of like, I listened to a rabbi once say, the Tower of Babel was built out of man-made stones, but the temple in Jerusalem is built out of the living stones, or it's made up out of the quarry. In a sense, you have stones which have different shapes and sizes that can come together to create a natural structure, or you can have a man-made bricks. Babylon, at the end of the day, is going to be the elites in control of technology, and I'm sorry to say, I realize industry. Imagine what it would be like if you and I got together for an intensive weekend and I focused on you fulfilling the specific call and assignment God has on your life. We call that Level 10 Living. And we actually have a level10living.com site set up right now, specially for you. And what we've done is we've taken this weekend experience where people paid thousands of dollars for that immersion, and we reproduced it so that you could be just like you're at the event with all the material, all the exercises, all the training. And we've actually discounted it from $500 for a special $297 offer. Just go to level10living.com and get the most powerful transformational training that you'll experience in your life.